Well, hello, and you're very welcome back to the Irish Independence League of Ireland review video, joined by Dan McDonald, who's just back from Talcott Park, and I'm here uh, shortly after coming back from Richmond Park. We are coming to it a little bit later than usual, but Dan, the show must go on. There was big wins on the road for the likes of league leader Shamrock Rovers today. Bohemians with a big win in Oriel Park as well. St. Pat's back on home soil and a massive 4-1 win over Waterford, and Drogheda with a big win over Derry City too. I know we mentioned that it feels like Derry City are only a poor result or two away from another kind of really big pressure on Tiernan Lynch. So that's not a night they would have wanted at all. Dan, I think we should start with kind of the kind of feeling we've had the last couple of weeks is that Shamrock Rovers are tipping away nicely, and St. Pat's are putting the pressure on them. But yeah, it's tight enough at the top.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Well, it is tight enough at the top. I mean, I think you're probably thinking of Pats and Rovers playing each other now on the 29th of May. I guess just how tight is it going to be coming up to those games? I know next Friday, not to jump ahead, but obviously Pats are playing Shells at home. You know, Shells are obviously a very good side on their travels, and Rovers are in Dundalk. They're probably smarting a little bit from tonight. I suppose they are two tricky games. So look, there's games to play before we get to that the end of the month. But I suppose they have both won. We can talk about my game in a bit. I mean, I suppose you are, maybe like I did see the goals from Galway and Rovers. I suppose that is a game. I mean, it's sort of 7 days on from Rovers, sorry, from Galway coming from 2 goals behind against Pats at home, and it was sort of similar situation tonight in that they were 2 down, and they get 1 back. But maybe the slight difference, it's easy to scoreboard sort of analyse as the Rovers go on and actually win the match. With a 3rd goal from Sabawali, who's one of these players who's actually done quite well since coming in. He's low profile. I think if people were to list probably 10 Rovers players, he mightn't necessarily spring to mind, and he sort of came in late in the day on loan from St Mirren, but obviously was in the league when he was younger at Waterford. Great strike from him, and he's someone that has been he's growing, like he's becoming a more important member of the team. I know he was right wing back initially. He's been playing right centre back a bit as well, and he looks capable of doing the type of things which he has done tonight. Is obviously score an exceptional goal. But I will say as well, Noonan with the opening goal, and I actually had them on for I saw Noonan score. You just remember we're also talking a little bit of Ajahn Vuna lately, and he's going in January. But Noonan, it's quite likely he's gone in the summer. Now I'd love to see him find a way to stay at the season, in Tala, but it's always less likely that this happens. Like, clubs tend to want to get players over as soon as they can, and just that little run and goal for the opening goal. Yeah, I mean, it's clinical for them, but maybe you talk about your game, because it was one of those where I saw Waterford 1-up, and it's that sort of stupid bounce that we can't really explain. You think, is this actually going to happen? But they've Pats have scored 4 goals again.
Pats have scored 4 goals for the 4th time in 16 games, and they lead the goal scoring charts. I think 4 more scored than Shamrock Rovers, so it's incredible attacking output from them so far this season. But yeah, as you said, the new manager bounce, Waterford going ahead 5 minutes in, and it was the 2nd time in you think back to a week or 2 ago, or 2 weeks ago, Bowes hit at Richmond Park after just 8 seconds. So that kind of early concession is something, I suppose Stephen Kenny was saying, it's not a trait they'd like to have, but the positive is that they know how to respond, and they know how to, just keep plugging away. But for 45 minutes in the first half, Waterford doing a fine job. And I know I saw them last week, brilliant second half against Shamrock Rovers, unlucky not to come out with anything of it. But for 45 minutes, they really didn't give St. Pat's a sniff. St. Pat's most of the possession, most of the chances, but really didn't give Arlo Doherty a whole lot of work to do. And I think they must have been 10, 20 seconds away from going in at the break with that halftime lead. Stupid penalty, Glenfield foul and Ryan Edmondson. Forrester levels from the spot, and from there, totally dominant second half by St. Pat's. Totally just put their stamp on the game. El Bazzetti, 2 goals in 3 minutes. A nice moment for him. He has had really bad luck with injury, his shoulder surgery, a couple of hamstrings as well. Nice moment for him, a full time being pushed towards the crowd for applause, and really unselfishly didn't go for his hat trick, squared it to Ryan Edmondson to put the cherry on top. So I think just after those back-to-back draws away from home over the bank holiday weekend, that was just a kind of little bit of a statement win from St. Pat's. Obviously, remaining second, keeping pressure on Shamrock Rovers. But yeah, for Waterford, for Graham Coughlin taking charge for the first time, there was a new
What was he
manager.
saying? What was he saying after?
He didn't pull any punches, really. He, recognised the job at hand, accepting they have an absolute mountain to climb, accepting, there's a confidence issue in the dressing room with their results. You look 15, 16 games in, still without a win. Of course, it's going to dent confidence. So it's kind of the things you'd expect a manager in his position to say, that they just have to roll their sleeves up. The only way out of this is hard work, but really not being pretty honest about it, not saying anything that, not making any big promises or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. He knows the size of the mountain that is ahead of his team, and the only way out of it is to try get that win. But they've a couple of tough games coming up, away to Derry, at home to Derry, Shelbourne, Drogheda as well. So a couple of tricky ones coming up for them. But Dan, I might go to Oriel Park. I know Aidan Fitzmaurice was there for us this evening, and Dundalk making the perfect start, half an hour in, A. Dervin, and then a perfect second half response from Bowes, and that winless run is now ended and just eases the pressure on Alan Reynolds amid that run.
Yeah, I mean, I was just the joy about doing this a bit later is just being able to watch some of the interviews and listen to what's been said, and just following Aidan's updates as well. I mean, they made a couple of changes at half time, and it's a strange one. And sort of Alan Reynolds acknowledged it, that the two up top hasn't worked some weeks. I mean, last week they had to change it. They brought Ross Tierney on, who was dropped, and they went sort of with Whelan up top. In the second half, they played very well. Tonight, it seems like they went to two up top, but Tierney also was involved, and he watched the equaliser, Douglas James Taylor, who was very poor last Friday. And Tierney, I mean, I'm guessing that's not a fitness issue, that he's fit enough to sort of be back involved, play a big part tonight, and just form. And makes one goal and scores a penalty, and Tierney looked to be picking up positions. So that is a great result for them. But obviously, I mean, it's not like they obviously have, I suppose, it's a couple of games there where they've obviously started really badly and had to rearrange at half time. And it feels like a sort of a trend this year. I feel like as part of the inconsistent defending that we're talking about, and we've talked about generally, a lot of games where you see managers making multiple changes at half time and sort of searching for solutions in the second half. And look, I know the rules have become more flexible over the years in terms of the number of subs you can use. So that's obviously part of it. There's certain windows that you can use subs in that's restricted. So you see more double or treble or even quintuple subs if you're good enough to do it, like Shamrock Rovers. So, but it is sort of a weird one that obviously Bowes went there with a plan tonight that didn't work, but they've managed to find a plan B that did. I know Jared Horgan went off at half-time. I think he was ill. So, and he's been so good for Dundalk this year, and that's obviously a big blow to them, and obviously didn't help their situation. He's been involved in so many of their goals and their big moments. But it is true, like Bowes, that stat about sort of 9 games without win becoming 10, that's gone away now. And the reality is, with the inconsistency of some of the teams below that we will discuss now, I mean, they are still third. If you're talking about a top 4 finish, like they have a nice gap there still. And maybe they've been through, like the very glass half full take for Bowes is that is a sticky patch for them, and they're going to come out of it again now. And while they had their sticky patch, they just didn't drop down the table. So maybe this will be remembered as a significant night, but I still feel it's premature to start declaring those things.
Yeah, no, it is, Dan. But like you look, we're coming up to nearly the halfway point in the season. Shells are 7th, and just 2 points off 9th at the moment. Like, what was the mood like around Tulka Park? And we mentioned Bow's winless run there, and Shells, from a home perspective, their winless run goes on. They remain bottom of the table for home form.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, like, there was no boos really. There was a couple of boos at full time, but not really. And I think in isolation, this wasn't bad at all from Shells. It's just more the collective now that they haven't. I mean, there was 28 shots, I think, in the end. I think I might have had 27 in my report, but I think it was updated after 15 corners. I did feel they were more dominant in the first half than the second. I don't think that their second half display was like necessarily something you'd say, okay, they had a really late flurry where Lundgren, who's been in and out since he's arrived, he actually did better than Jarvis off the bench tonight. I thought Jarvis was disappointing again. Now, he did miss a header, but he actually was braver in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes. I thought they lost away a bit after half time. They were very good in the first half, I felt, in terms of like sort of being quite dominant in the game. Sargent made 1 or 2 good saves. Other times they fluffed their chances. You came to that game tonight and you wouldn't say, God, Shells are just, that's the team in crisis. They didn't look like that. I can't say that. But ultimately, like, the bottom line is they've taken 4 points from 8 games at home, which is just nowhere near good enough. And like Joey O'Brien is saying, like, he feels he's got the best squad in the country. And as you say, like, they're 2 points in the table ahead of a Sligo Rovers side who came to defend, really. And the mad thing about it is that for all Shells, you could cling to the positive from their perspective of the clean, well, at least had the clean sheet, because the story of their home form so far has been concessions rather than not scoring. Like, they've scored 3 against Strada and still lost. The story tonight really is that they actually did concede from a set piece. Like, Archie Meekison scored the second ball from a dead ball, an area where they've struggled. I mean, they did basically concede from that tonight. And the assistant referee saw an offside that I don't know where they saw it from. And John Russell have some quotes on Saturday morning, obviously very scathing of the general refereeing standards, and it's a terrible decision. Now, he did acknowledge they probably benefited from a favourable penalty call against Pats earlier in the week, but this was a really bad one. So, like, Shells, for all the dominance, could have lost the game again where they actually didn't play that badly. So there's a little bit of a head scratcher, because I think that obviously there is some. I know that there was a game a couple of weeks ago. I think it was that Drogheda match where I think it felt the tensions were going to spill over a bit. I don't think anyone could reasonably do that tonight, because of the pattern of play and their overall display. But the bottom line table is not great, and I did feel they lost their confidence a little bit. There was some players, like, the risk taken. Like, they're still very reliant on Harry Wood. Like, they're massively reliant on Harry Wood. And if it is the best squad in the league, which I think people would debate that statement, in Tala in particular, but I'm not sure if some of those players are showing it, even if the belief is there that they can.
Big trip for Shells away to St. Pat's next week. Dan, briefly just finishing up, Drogheda with a really impressive 1-0 win over Derry City. I suppose for Derry, after those wins over Shells and Shamrock Rovers, you would have thought they were beginning to turn a corner, and now that's 3 games without a win. And we mentioned Shells just 2 points off 9th there. Derry are in 5th and just 3 points off 9th. So that 5th to 9th bracket, there's only 3 points in that. It's very, very tight. Yeah,
like, I didn't think they turned a corner really. Like, the Shells win was one of the luckiest wins you'd ever see. And obviously there was the Rovers game that was a good performance on a sort of a special night, albeit on a sort of a eccentric pitch. So I don't think the evidence is really there, and there's any real encouragement that Derry are on any kind of upward trajectory. Now, I see Tiernan Lynch's interview afterwards tonight was trying to suggest it's as good as they've been all season. Certainly some Derry fans I know were in touch during the game would have a very different view. And while social media is a dangerous barometer of anything, I don't see anyone else agreeing with his observations. I see basically start with a striker tonight, James Clark. Now, obviously, it's quite often teams will play with James Clark. I mean, Bows have done that, but I don't know, just strange. Like it seems to be a lot of inconsistency in selection again. Barry Cotter was on the bench tonight. Now that could be just an injury situation. Josh Thomas coming on in the 92nd minute. I don't know. Look, I watched Drogheda on Monday, and their centre halves like struggled. Like haven't been playing great at the moment. They were sort of exposed by sort of a bit of directness from John McGovern. And I don't know. The Derry, I think they had a lot of possession in the game that they're talking about, but I actually, Drogheda struggled with a bit of directness in Tala. And I would imagine they mightn't have been too unhappy with the Derry approach. So, but I don't know. Derry, to me, just not convincing at all. And I think like they are level on points with Drogheda, with multiples the budget. And it is worth pointing out to talk about Drogheda that like if they win their game in hand, which is against Waterford, and look, it might be a better Waterford side now than it was when the game was called off initially. I mean, they would be level with Dundalk, and they would be, 3 points ahead of Derry, and as it stands, they're already one ahead of Shell. So they are actually overperforming again, Drogheda relative to their outlay, and that's 2 big Fridays in a row where they've won at home. But Derry, to me, are they're probably the biggest disappointment, I would say, because they can't really fall back on, and like Shells and Derry have been the 2 biggest disappointments, but Shells sort of have these litany of calamities. Well, they've sort of shot themselves in the foot, in terms of games they should have won, and you can definitely add 4 or 6 points to them. Derry, to me, I don't feel there's that sense of, real genuine hard luck stories in lots of games. In fact, the opposite end with a couple of games where they've got results. So I think they are probably, they are a big disappointment, I think. And I think we said they're 1 or 2 results away from being in crisis. I suppose that's number 1 now. So we'll see what happens with them. We should speak briefly before we wrap up. Obviously, was the big game in the first division tonight, where Cork City did beat UCD. And it's funny, like after losing last weekend, they can just, they can find what it takes to win. So Hansen Ponga with a hat-trick. And the first half of Shawnee Maguire missed a penalty. You would have expected Shawnee Maguire to be the difference in those games. Obviously, it was in Pongo, but maybe just Cam's thing after what some were describing as the worst weekend in Cork City's history. They are still three ahead with a game in hand, so they'll probably still be okay, but they should be, because they are actually the only full-time team in that division, properly full-time team in that division. So it would be a disgrace, really, if they weren't anything but dominant.
No, that's a big win for Cork City. I might just mention as well, Ben McCormick, a hat-trick, 38-minute hat-trick for Bray. Big win over Cove Ramblers tonight as well. So a couple of hat-tricks in the first division.
Good goal in there, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I think the third was a lovely lob. So, bit of a shout-out to Ben McCormick there. But Dan, for now, we'll leave it there. The QR code on your screen, which you can see there, will take you to all our League of Ireland content, and we'll have the latest reaction on Saturday morning and across the weekend here on the Irish Independent. Thanks for watching.